Hello, 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 guys. Ooh, I like that. You had me look it up and I marked it and I'm like, ooh, I just headline. So I'm like, let's see that number. Let's see that number. I see a lot of numbers, but that's not the one. So, hi, Sophia. We are here tonight with Miss Mandee, who you guys already know because she's usually here and she jams with us. But tonight we have Ursula, special guest. Hopefully, we see a lot more of her and everybody else's Sea Goddess because it's a welcome stage for each and every one of us to chat. They all have lots of cool information. If you guys do not know who Ursula is because you have not yet went to the Sea Goddess Healing Arts website, which is linked in the description of this. She is the co-founder of Sea Goddess Healing Arts. She is what they call the GU, which I do believe is the goddess of operations, if I have that correct. I hope I do.
Yes.
And she is also a professional astrologer, certified, I think, aromatherapist. I'm trying to do this from memory, Ursula. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm
You're
trying right
doing
now.
great.
And then I also believe that, oh, I forgot the last one. See, I got off track. What is the last one? You're also certified in something else.
Those are the two. But
Oh,
I do all
okay.
the other things, especially everything that we talk about on the show here.
And we
It
actually
all
have a
kind of
lot of
comes
people.
together.
So I'm going to say a quick hello to everybody because we have everybody come in. We have a Sophia, Jennifer, Heather. I'm happy to see you here, Heather. We got you at a time that works for you. Crystal, and we are all ready. So we have introduced Miss Ursula. She is here to talk about Lionsgate because we are feeling it today. I know I am. I don't know about you. My son and I are having a heck of a time. And so I'm just going to kind of let her take control with what she has to say about Lionsgate. If readings do come up, usually we kind of like have you guys say if you want a reading or whatever. That's fine, but we might not get to those readings because our focus tonight's kind of going to be on Lionsgate and any questions you have about the energy shifts taking place in your life. So, Miss Ursula, you have the floor.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you also for that awesome introduction and for remembering all of that. I so appreciate it. Good job. So, I kind of just want to stress the importance that there is a lot of hype around Lionsgate. That's sort of my interpretation about the day in general. It kind of is like all of Leo season. It's not just today. Like today's sort of the peak of the energy, supposedly. But I think I want to take us more back to just the roots of Leo season and what Leo means in general. And yeah, there's this when suns align with suns and stars, like, yeah, the energy's intensified. There's definitely a portal effect going on. Eclipse seasons are portals too. We have portals a lot. But I feel like a lot of the meaning of Leo and the sun gets a little bit lost in the hype of the energy of this day. And I also want to focus on the numerology because 8 is very important. The number 8 is very important. So let's just start with we're focused on the sun right now. The sun is the only, in astrology, the sun is the only ruler of the sign of Leo. So it's important because the sun represents our inner light, it represents our life force. We would not have life on this planet without the sun. So, shining our light is the biggest takeaway and reminder of this time and this season. And in the Northern Hemisphere, at least, especially here on the East Coast, it's hot AF in Leo season. So, the sun is super strong. It's just like extra hot outside. So, it's really important to remember what the sun represents. Some things that we can pull into the discussion as well are the things that are associated with the sun, like crystals, like sunstone, citrine, carnelian, the parts of our body, so our solar plexus and our sacral chakra areas, so our personal power and our creativity. But also, gold is the metal for the sun, and herbs and plants, just like think like citruses. Frankincense is one of the oils. Jasmine is the signature oil, the one that I use in my practice when I deal with Leo energy. So we have that energy on and sunflowers. I'm just looking at a candle right now that has all the things on it. It's a fire sign. Leo's a fire sign. It's fixed fire. So like burning candles, having fire pits, having bonfires. It's that energy of the creative energy that flows through us. And Leo energy focuses on our passions, our joy, our inner child, our creativity, and how we express that. And there's a light and a shadow side to every sign. So when we have Leo, it's good to honor ourselves. always, to learn how to put ourselves first, to learn how to shine our own light. But when that's in overdrive, we can see things like pomposity, drama, which is also associated with Leo. Leos are associated with royalty. So like having a king complex, all those things are like, Leo and solar energy in overdrive. But then if we're not focusing on ourselves enough, we're putting everyone in front of ourselves, then we don't fill our own cup and we don't get to express our soul or our light or, accomplish what we achieved to be here to do while we came here as, human beings on this earth plane and this earth school. So I think I really want to kind of just return to that and just talk about, Leo and the season and the time that we're in. I think a lot of the intensity and the craziness that people are feeling right now relates more to another astrological alignment that we have going on, which is Uranus, the planet Uranus, and the North Node coming together. We just had Mars pass through that as well. So that Uranus energy can be very chaotic. And we have some other aspects going on, like squares to the planet Saturn, which pulls in tension, which are calls to action. So it's like a shit or get off the pot type of feeling. But the tension's there for a reason.
I love
yeah.
It's juicy to me.
Yeah. So the tension's there for a reason.
That's me today.
A lot of the grittiness, like we're still in that energy. We're going to be in this energy now for like the rest of the year. Uranus North Node doesn't happen all the time. It's kind of a rare thing, especially coming together in the sign of Taurus, which relates to our resources and our sense of value. So I think the chaos is more coming from that. But we get the nice reminder of the portal and the emphasis put on today, especially to remember why we're here and to shine our light and fill our own cups and just be the creative, passionate beings that we came here to be. So that's my spiel on that.
It's like that was a good spiel. Take. I like the spiel. Mandee?
I love the spiel. I love all the things that Ursula was bringing attention to. And it's really like, it's so interesting because I think people, like Ursula was saying, they've been hyped up for the Lionsgate portal. And it's like, I've been feeling it for a while. And this energy is here. And like, even in our little goddess tribe, like we've really, like all of us have had, boundaries come up and just personal self-care and stepping more into our light and like our power and releasing voices and roaring if need be. And there's just it's been really nice and cool to like watch and observe and be a part of. And, I live for this energy, so I think it's fantastic, and I really appreciate all the points that you made, Ursula, and I'm excited to see. We have so many comments coming in. I'm so excited. Thank you, everyone, for holding space with us tonight here on Spirit Speaks. If you're just tuning in, I'm Mandee Elam of Sea Goddess Healing Arts. You are here with the lovely co-host, Crystal Jordan, Mitten Medium. She's absolutely incredible, and our special guest tonight is Ursula Duffy, who's an aromatherapist and an astrologist, and she's our guru at Sea Goddess, and she's giving us a nice little update on Lionsgate and all the things that are coming with it. So welcome.
I wanted to highlight this one comment because I'm reading them as they're coming in.
So many.
And I just wanted to highlight this one for a second, just so they know that we're not ignoring them. If you kind of chimed in a little bit later, we're focusing on Lionsgate tonight. So I'm not necessarily set up right now to channel for people on the other side. I did not call in spirit that way tonight, so I'm not going to be able to do that. If you would like to set up a reading, you can either get a hold of me on my website, which we'll talk about in the end. It's also in the description, or you can go through the other way that I do readings for free if that's not something you can afford right now. So I will make sure I address that at the end, but now we're not giving those readings. I'm sorry. So Lionsgate, everybody. And yes, Ursula, I feel like I'm gonna crawl. I told them in the little Sea Goddess groups today. I was like, I feel like my spirit self can't find the zipper to the skin suit because it like is wanting out so much. I just feel like I'm about to burst out of whatever this is. I feel like I'm in like a weird rubber suit today.
That's such a potent description. What do you got on that, Urs?
I think that's the chaos, and it really also depends on how this is all affecting your own chart. So we all experience transits and things collectively, but we all experience them in our own way, depending on how it interacts with our own chart. So that's another thing to pull into it. Like if you're experiencing this day and you're peaceful and like you're like, what the hell is everyone talking about? It's not. I feel great. like there's probably something not making a, challenging or gritty aspect to your chart. But other people are experiencing it differently because they probably have something in a fixed sign or
course
in
I
Leo
do.
itself. So that therein lies the individual experience that comes with everything. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what do we want to speak about next? And do you guys have any questions about what she brought up that you can add to your day? Like, I don't know anything about my chart, so like when we talk about this, it's all foreign to me. I don't do astrological anything because it requires me to like use my brain in ways that my brain doesn't know how to work. And so I know nothing about where my moon's part is or star sign or any of these things. People talk about them and they look at me like, and I'm like, no. I don't know because my brain doesn't compute that way. So it's really interesting for me to hear other people talk about it because I love science, I love stars, I love the aspect of all of these things. I just can't make it work in my own brain to make sense. So does anybody have any questions for that? With this energy, I've been having crazy activations, Lionsgate for the win. And then Mermaid in the Mountains says that's been my experience, like floating on cloud nine. Best day ever. So I'm happy for her. I'm so happy, Lexi.
So, Urs, what are like two of your favorite maybe ways or tools or anything of like sitting with this energy or embodying it or letting it show you something? Like, what are some things that we can give our listeners that they love to learn with us?
You can do some sun meditations or sun salutations. I usually, my practice, well, for me in particular, the sun's a really important planet in my own chart. So I have a whole little space in my apartment dedicated to the sun. So I call it my little sun temple. And I've got things like sunflowers in there and that kind of stuff. So calling in the energy is a really good way. And getting out in the sun is a great way. And that's also really good just for us and our energy in general. It's a great way to recharge. I know, Mandee, you have the practice where you like to put your palms up because Leo rules the heart. So putting your palms up outside in the sun it's an extension of our heart chakra. So that's a really important, especially if you're feeling chaotic, that could be a way to feel grounded. So to bring in another part of Leo as well, it does roll over our heart. So any way to just drop into your heart center, meditations that can help, yoga practices that can help, like I said, sun salutations, just getting outside and enjoying. I mean, look at what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere here right now. We have all of our gardens and plants popping. The flowers look at the sunflowers behind Mandee. Like, don't they just make you want to smile? They're my favorites. So they call in that solar energy. So just taking, the power in the pause, especially too with the chaotic part that I was talking about with that Uranian energy. Taurus reminds us to be present and to stop and smell the roses. And if you take some time each day to intentionally do that, I think it can help, especially when things feel out of whack or when people around us feel like, the world's going crazy. So that's how I usually deal with it. And, if you need to blow off some steam, blow off some steam. We got that Mars energy involved in all this too, like I was talking about. Mars requires movement. You just have to get that energy out of your body. That whole energy and motion piece that I know we talk about, at Sea Goddess, but also here on Spirit Speak. So if you're active and athletic, go for a run, go for a swim, do something with your body, because that can help emote as well.
I love that.
I love that. I used to work out all the time before all of the weird injuries and stuff like that. And I just recently had a talk with Corey and Ben and told them, I was like, I feel like most of my issues would probably be fine and taken care of if I just found a way to actually exercise again, because I used to run 5 miles a day. I used to, work out in a gym, or I had my own weight machine at one point. So I was like, I feel like it's just my body, like, okay, come on, Crystal, do something a little bit different. But that's always been one of the ways. And when you guys were talking about the different ways that we can take in the sun, I breathe in the sun. So I like sit out in the morning and I make sure I breathe in through my solar plexus, and make sure I hold that breath in that space. And I also envision light coming from it. And that's one of the things that helps ground me a little bit, since being here, which I've had a very difficult time regrounding. Like, whew, I was uprooted. Roots aren't happy. A little bit of root rot right now. We're getting it good. But that's been one of the things that have helped me to kind of reconnect in this part of the world. So whatever works for you guys, just add it into your experience. I love this. Glenda says, I kept my cool at work, but wanted to scream. I was just agitated, gazed at the clouds, and she took a little bit of a walk around. And Terry said, so the numbers, um, Ursula might probably, I don't know if Ursula is going to be able to answer this for you right now in this setting for that, but I am going to say those are, you can look at them as angel sequence numbers. They can be anything for you. They're messages. So the numbers 3, 5, 7, and 9 seems to be a big part of my life. Why? Also, I'm a Virgo. Now's a good time to put in my plug. I can't see where it is, but it's the Angel Numbers book, and it's by Mystic Michaela. I love that. I call it my number Bible because it has like everything in it. So if you're confused on your numbers, you can buy that book, or you can just Google it. Google has it for free. Those numbers just don't seem to vibe with me. So if that helps you, maybe that will be good. And then we have Miss Mermaid. She said that maybe why my day has been so good. I greeted the sun this morning and just spent my morning ritual with the sun and in the garden and some yoga and mushrooms. I just love her. I absolutely love her. She has such a peaceful, calming love and joy, just even in how you speak and type. So I just want you to know that you just went for me. I actually envisioned you in your beautiful mountain setting, and I loved it so much. Thank you. Yellow
Lexi, if you
Roses
guys
has,
haven't had a chance to check out Lexi, our mermaid in the mountains yet, like she's just magic. And she's also kind of like a modern day Mary Poppins, and she's homeschooling. And we've got a show called Unschooled on our Sea Goddess YouTube channel. And she's just awesome. And even with like dogs running around and babies hanging off her and 100 things going on, she's still holding that light and peace and that essence, and and it's okay and it's all good, and so we just love and appreciate her. So I just want to give you a little extra shout out, Lex.
thank you. She is amazing. If you meet her ever, like if you're ever in the presence of even speaking with her and vibe off her energy, she's just like, so like, it's okay. Everything's going to be good. Like, we're good. We got this. It's fine. She gives you hope. And I love her for that. So, she's wonderful. Sophia, yellow roses have a special place in mine and my husband's family. That's my unofficial Leo flower. Jesse, I felt like I lost her. I felt like I was an anchor that kept everyone around me from floating away. Bonkers energy, really focused on my breath today. Yes, I have also had to refocus today a couple different times, Jesse. Like, just okay, Crystal. And it's funny because you guys are sitting there. Mandee looks like she's all chill. She's got the good vibes going. Ursula's over there like, I'm just doing my best life ever because I know this stuff and she loves talking about it. And I feel like I'm one of those crazy little cracked out like circus animals that you see today. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like the squirrel with too much caffeine that's like that cartoon character. That's how I feel. It's weird.
It's all perfect. We're all holding exactly the vibrations and spaces we need, which Ursula brought attention to, that like depending on where our charts are and where we're at on our journeys, this energy is going to affect all of us differently. And yeah, it takes a lot to like rock my boat these days. Like I'm really losing my shit if I like lose it. But I worked really hard. I said I am peace every day for like 2 years. Like
same.
You just get a new vibration within yourself at some point, and it helps you slow down and it helps you sense things. Like there's rainbows on my wall right now from the sun coming in and projecting, and like I'd much rather focus on that than like trauma drama or something somebody said or whatever's happening. And like I've gotten, I think for all of us too, it's scary going live. It's scary, being in front of people sometimes, or it can be. And it's gotten to the point now where it's just like, I think after the all like being on Zoom so much, I'm just so used to it. And I'm just like, everybody's here with me. And so like, I just invite everyone to take a nice breath and just enjoy this energy, because if there's one thing it's doing, it's helping us, which I want Ursula to talk about at some point too. We'll get to that. Ursula is an aromatherapist and an incredible master of many, many things, but our senses and the sensuality and what's really like this energy in this season is bringing around us at this time. Because it's like, don't worry about all that stuff.
You brought up her being an aromatherapist. Is there like an aromatherapy that, or a special brand? Like, would you recommend a brand to people, or does it matter?
It does matter. Actually, I can direct everyone to my podcast. I just did an episode all about this, aromatherapy, facts and truth. I think it's episode 5.
Glenda just gave you a huge shout out a minute ago too. And
Thank
she said,
you.
great job with a kiss face. She loved it. So yes, tell us
Thank
about
you.
your most recent episode that Glenda was commenting
Yes.
on.
Yeah, so Aromatherapy Facts and Truth is all about that, Crystal. Thank you for asking that. There are certain brands that have more, let's say, integrity than others. My general rule is if they don't give you, if you ask for it or post for free, what's called the GCMS report, then don't even bother buying from them because they're probably hiding something. And the GCMS report, it stands for gas chromatography, mass spectrometry. And that's the analysis that's done on the oil itself to break it down into its individual chemical components. So if you have a report that lists properly all the components, you know the oil hasn't been adulterated in some way. And that's when they add, it's just like any other product or food. They can add fillers, fragrance rather than actual plant material and oil from the plant. There's all kinds of shady practices that happen.
What?
So, oh yeah.
No.
Well, see, and that's also because, like, you talk about that when it comes to a lot of different things. And I don't think that people think about that when they buy stuff, such as for cleansing, for everything. They have to kind of remember that the energy it's produced by is going to be an energy that you're letting into your body as well. And I don't think a lot of people do that because they're just starting out and they're like, oh, somebody told me to buy sage. So they go to the nearest store and they're like, I need a bundle of sage, but they have no clue where it came from. They have no clue whether or not it was done with like good practices or thoughts for the plant and how the earth is going to respond to that and like let it grow. So it's almost like already done with a negative energy. And so you're kind of cleansing your space to rid it of energy, but you're kind of bringing it back in because you don't know where it came from. And so I feel like that was super important to touch on. Go ahead, Mandee.
When you're ready.
You go right ahead.
You have a magical sage that you don't know how you got it, or it's your first time buying it, or you're new at this, you can cleanse it as soon as you get it. And you can thank that spirit, that journey, like that sage for growing however it did, wherever it did, or like Palo Santo and sage both get over harvested sometimes, and it's not always like respected when it's taken. And that's something that you can like give light right back to it and say, thank you so much for coming to me. Like, I don't know where you came from or how, but like I cleanse you now and you're mine and you're part of this. And I'm going to be mindful moving forward and where I get all my things. But like, I'm so excited to be on this journey because that is the biggest thing we fight with the most is all the guilt and shame. And you can't take a freaking step or a breath without, rocking some sort
everything.
And we have to remember each and every soul, each and every one of us, each of our lights, people, animals, plants, all of it, we choose to come in and have these experiences. So it doesn't mean it's okay. It doesn't mean we're not trying to make this world a little bit of a better place, which it's hard to tell, but we are doing lifetime after lifetime. Like it's getting much, much later around here. It doesn't always seem like it, but it really is tremendously. And so it's important to always just say like, thank you so much. And like, how can I learn more about this and be more like grateful, because that is a thing too. And we're like, oh no. And like, if you get a bottled water, that's a big thing. And I'm like, thank you for this clean, amazing water that somehow came to me for me to drink. Like, is it in a bottle? Yep. Is that probably not great for me? Probably not. But you know what? I can Reiki it and send it love and balance and, a little ohm every now and then or something. And it's going to come back, and we're all energy and it can all be transmuted, including us. So I'm glad you brought that up because it comes up a lot and people feel bad or they feel guilt or shame or they're not sure. And I encourage you to use it as a learning opportunity and then love that being that found its way to you, however it did, to support you at this time.
See, like that was a good practice for me with food because I really struggled as an empath, like eating meat. And it wasn't even, I feel like, normal people, I say, don't understand sitting in a restaurant crying because you just remote viewed through the cow that was sitting on your husband's plate and seeing what it went through. And then like looking at him like, how are you going to eat that animal? But I had to flip the way that I did things. And so I had to really learn how to do it because my body, yes, I would love to be vegan and such, but my body doesn't like that. It needs meat. So I make sure that I bless everything that I put into my body. And I make sure that it's very well aware, spirit-wise, body-wise, what it did to me. And that's actually a great practice, Mandee, because that's what got me being able to eat meat again and actually not malnourishing my body because I couldn't separate myself from the energy of what it was that I was taking in. It was intense. So anything can be transmuted as truthfully. 3 ladies sitting on a panel, each one of us empathic. That's literally like what, if you Google what an empath is, that's kind of what our job is to do, is to put light back into situations and scenarios and things where we can, and try to transmute the negative into a positive. And so the more we practice that, the better we're going to get. And then everything's going to kind of be healed. Because, I mean, you can even send some healing to the person that originally picked it, plucked it, or got it, whatever, even if they didn't know that it was ugly practices. So you're still giving love to everybody, and they'll learn along the way too. So infuse it, however.
I'm telling you, the more you walk your path, the more you realize it's all perfect. And like I said, doesn't mean it's okay, or like doesn't mean there aren't really bad things going on in the world, but each of those things are sacred and contribute to the betterment of society in some way or another, even if it's growing pains or hard lessons. And the higher you kind of vibe and get and look out, the more judgment you release, the more space you hold, the more you start to understand, especially for yourself, first and foremost, and then the other souls that come in. And I like that you brought that up with the food thing, because that happened with me with consuming meat, and I consume meat again. I go through vegan cleanses. I do all kinds of stuff, but I do consume and I'm grateful for, good meats and things when I can, or sometimes not, whatever comes to me. However, a lot of people have awakenings through their eating and through seeing what animals have been through. And I had that same moment with cows, and actually it was octopus. I couldn't eat octopus anymore. It was the first one that happened when I was like 21, and I was like not nearly as conscious as I am now. I'm 36 now, and I was like, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, I've been eating seafood my whole life. Like, and I just literally couldn't. And I was having all these visions, and I'm like, yo, there's so much more. And then it came in with cows and other things. And so as I've held space with clients, I've realized this happens to a lot of people out there. So you're not crazy. You're not alone for tuning into that energy. And in fact, it's just happening so that we become more mindful, so we become more conscious, so that we realize that in order to get life, we got to give life. And there's this yin and yang going on. And we're supposed to be tuning more and more into our bodies, our vessels, and our senses as we get back to our discussion with aromatherapist and astrologist Ursula Duffy. She has so much to share with us today.
And we have Sophia. She says, my kids love to send healing and love out into the world. Reiki is like an all-in-one medicine. It is. And I love that you're teaching your children to do that. That's awesome. Jennifer, getting creative and bartering. Ursula, I use Now brand and I love it. Is that a good brand? You can catch that show of hers on, I do believe it's Becoming Chiron, right? Yes. So she's on YouTube. Yes.
Ursi.
Yeah, I mean, I can address that specifically. I've never heard of Now, but that general guideline that I mentioned, that's really the perfect indication to answer that question.
What was it? The guideline?
Look, so if they don't offer free for download, or if you ask for it, the GCMS report on the actual oil that you're buying or that you've bought.
Got it.
I think that's really that separates the black and the white.
Okay.
So get on their
integrity. Yeah.
So get on their website and look it up and see if they offer the GCMS.
I had a feeling some people would take some notes this next time that we clarified.
I was like, I got notes. I told you I'm prepared because I know you have awesome advice. So I'm like so on board with the note taking right now. So get on and see if they have a report. I don't think you listed like the brands that are like good and bad. I think you kind of generalized or talked about it. Yeah, she's not that.
It takes some effort and bravery in this society these days to go and make a list and call names out. So,
right,
I think
it's not worth it.
Very smart and crafty, and a gift to us all.
Thank you.
And so, yes, Terry, I would suggest getting on their actual website and looking up that report and seeing if you can find it. If you can't find it, then that means that they're trying to hide something. If you can find it, then it is what it is. Glenda, yes. I think my actual food, I had no idea why until you mentioned that to me, Crystal, in our very first session together. Yeah, that just, man, I'm telling you, sometimes. Crystal says, coming from a religious background growing up and all of the shame that comes with it, all of the rules, and how it often feels like you're just failing miserably. This conversation is so helpful and so healing to me. Thank you, ladies. I also came from I did not come from a religious background in the sense that my family forced it upon me. I wanted to fit in, therefore I forced it upon myself. Okay. And the church that I was involved in was not the best church. There was a lot that we could talk about, but we won't. That's not what we're here for. So I feel that in my own way. And I always felt that it didn't matter what I do, like what I did, what I said, nothing mattered. And I was always at fault for something. Like it didn't matter. I could never be enough on some level. And it was quite traumatic, especially when it comes to God, which is why I talk to people the way that I do, because I feel like we need to teach that kind of comes from within us instead of externally. And you don't have to fight any biblical anything to love you. And it's just something completely different, I think, than what we see and we receive. And I think that once you're in that situation and you've channeled for or sat with people or heard a lot, like all of those stories, you tend to understand how some people, one, have very big trust issues, first off, in what God or religion looks like, but also think about the people who have been abused by male figures in their life. That's also a big one that I've ran into, and that makes it hard for some women, even men I've seen have trust towards that, and so it keeps them from accepting anything in. And so if you kind of tap into yourself and create that within you, it helps you build trust with you, and then everything else will follow. So I hear you, Crystal, and I thank you for sharing that, because I think that's something that we've seen a lot of in a lot of people, and I think that it's beautiful to see it coming back around in a different way. So it was a really good comment. Thank you for sharing that, I guess. Terry did respond. She says, okay, thank you. Mermaid says her notebook's open too. Sophia, Crystal, Turner, I totally feel this. Once you see how weird certain religion constructs can be, you can't go back. One of my triggers.
Once you see it, it's like so
Yeah.
true. And I just thank you guys all for holding the space and like having this open discussion and wanting to talk about it. Because even if you didn't grow up in the church, you were still conditioned in like a Christian society. If you grew up in the United States or Australia or England or, Canada, stuff like that. And like, we've been so conditioned by it, even if we didn't go to church. And then if you did go to church, there's a lot of dogmatic things. And the dogma just has all this energy to it of guilt, shame, criticism, fear. And so many people have like such an inner knowing and belief and feeling that like God doesn't look at us like that with an all-ruling fist and yay or nay and you're in trouble and shame on you. Like, no. And see, like that's controversial, of course, but from what I've come to understand within myself and within my guides and within the God that I know, it is so loving and gentle and forgiving and gives us so much creative power we don't even realize. And we are creating our own stories based on the narrative that's been fed to us and conditioned to us so that we do create these sort of stories, whether it's, society or religion or Hollywood or what have you. But it's so important that we claim our sovereignty at this time and we start to learn how to love ourselves. And the thing is, each and every one of us felt that within ourselves. Like, yeah, we're having that in this discussion and it feels amazing and whole. But I remember being like, an 8-year-old in church being like having these radical feelings through me. Like, that's right. That's cool. That's amazing. No, I don't know. Something's off about that. Or seeing people being hypocrites right in front of me all the time, telling me one thing to do something and then acting completely different. And it was just like, what is this world? Like, I don't understand. And I know that like I'm not special or different. I know almost every single one of us had moments like that where our intuition reminded us and told us and whispered to us about what might actually be going on here. So I love this discussion and I'm grateful that you're all brave enough to be here and hold the space. And I love, oh my gosh, every single woman I see on here so far too. I'm so grateful.
There's lots of that, and it's super fun because I think that's part of what we're seeing in people stepping up and into their own. There's like this huge.
Did Crystal freeze?
Yeah.
Oh, Ursula, why don't you tell us something on your heart or mind?
Yay!
Well, go ahead.
It's like, I just invited Ursula to share.
I'm sorry, but I do. I think that's super important to the journey in itself, because people are really starting to find their own self. And it's always such a fun experience. You talked about how, there's no hatred and ugliness on the other side. It's always funny. Like, that's the greatest topic for me, is when, like, I'm like, there's no hell. And people are like, what? Because they want all these people to be there. And I'm just going to say, if it exists, we're all going to be there together. So you might want to stop wishing it upon everybody else. So it just doesn't exist that way. Miss Ursula, do you want to talk about the number 88 next? Or do you have a different one? Okay.
No. I think it's really important, because today is a pair of eights. And focusing on the numerology, I think, is important, because we have these gifts of these numbers once a month with the, with the pairs. So it's pretty cool.
See that right there. You just went, and just by saying the most simplest of things about, we have pairs of numbers every single month. I didn't even think about that in the form of, like, probably how important that was for us in our day, especially if we see it. But especially if we're, like, on a crazy roller coaster ride, that's probably pretty important. So you had asked me to read in the great big book of numbers everything, what 88 represents. And it says, welcome riches. That's why I smiled, by the way. I was like, oh, I feel like I like this one.
Hello, Leo.
Good.
It says, state your intention. Infinite abundance is available to you, and your angels are signaling for you to remember this. They want you to elevate your vibration as well as your expectations for what you personally can receive. Write down an intention you have for the future and state it out loud under the stars during the next full moon. That's 88.
It's on Thursday.
I was like, that's soon, right, Urs?
Yeah, it's on Thursday. That's beautiful. Thank you.
I know. I was like, I think I like, and how did I not put the 2 and 2 together? Like, look up 88, because I'm such a numbers related person. Like, today there was, while I do believe, writing something for the sea goddess, the 222 came up, and the 222 is, like, pretty much, you're right where you need to be. Stop freaking out. We're giving you things for a reason. Slow down, girl. And I was like, because they always give it to me when I need to receive the message. Like, I can be in the middle of a conversation and I will see a number pop up, and then I just know in my soul that they are speaking. They're like, this is your moment, girl, get the book. And next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I stop what I'm doing, because they have told me to stop through their messages in my numbers book. So numbers are super important to some people. And it's because a lot of us go very fast. A lot of you go very fast. You have kids, you have schedules, you have jobs, you have families, you have all these things happening around you. And so you're looking for these huge, amazing signs and symbols from spirit every single day. And your biggest sign and symbol is when you look at the clock thinking it might be lunchtime and you see 11:11. Or maybe you overstepped it and you see 12:17, or you see something else. It's those moments that they're giving it to you. And a lot of those things slip our minds, because why? We looked at the clock. But I always tell people, what guided you in that moment to say, I need to check the time. So sometimes we don't understand those little callings we receive, or thoughts that say do this or whatever. That's actually spirit guidance. And I think that's where people have such a hard time grasping, because we have our own thoughts and like what we hear in our head, it sounds like us all the time, so we just disregard it. And so numbers are a big part of a lot of people's lives. And so if you're seeing a lot of numbers, I would definitely start looking those up and see what they represent to you, because I guarantee their messages, especially if you're feeling stuck, or even if you're in a good space, it's cool, because then they just are giving you a pat on the back saying, good job, awesome reward. But it means something every single time. And I think those are just little beautiful pieces. I always like relate it to Hansel and Gretel. So it's like our breadcrumbs leading us to that next goal that we've been trying to receive. And so it's like we're just walking through the forest and we're just do in our own world. Oh, look, number. I have a number. So what does it mean? And so that's one of those things. So look up your numbers and keep that in mind. Use those things, write them down, take them to heart, manifest, use them, because they are definitely guided information being brought by your team.
Absolutely.
Also, I wanted to give Jen a shout out. She commented that we met on the 8/8 portal last year. So it's been a full year since we've been friends with Jennifer, and we're so happy you're here. She's probably putting the kids to bed but listening. So I saw that before, and I forgot to give that shout out while we were talking about the 8-8.
Going back and reading messages, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was going to say, didn't she say that also, like, somewhere else, too, that you guys met on the 8-8, like, the Lionsgate portal last year? So that's, like, a really cool anniversary. If you think about it, talk about divine intervention. Like, whew, how does that even work? That's pretty cool.
Well, we planned a team circle, and we put out a sponsored Facebook ad, and people responded. But the orchestration of the people that responded and how it all happened was pretty cool. And that's the neat thing. It's like, it's so amazing how easily we can all connect these days when we tune into the portal of our hearts and we follow where we want to be.
I do have a question, actually. Now that we're talking about last year's and this year, is there a difference between years, Ursula? Like, do they each represent something based on where the planet is, where it's shifting the time? I mean, like, does that make a difference, or is it generally the same thing every single year for Lionsgate?
What Lionsgate is when the star Sirius aligns with our sun. So that in itself is the same, essentially. In our lifetimes, we'll pretty much experience it the same way. Excuse me. But the astrology of everything is always changing.
Gotcha.
So that will change the vibe for sure. Like right now, like I said, the grittiness that we're experiencing is from the squares that are happening. The sun is squaring the Uranus North Node conjunction. It's opposing almost exactly the planet Saturn. So like those oppositions and squares are the energies that we experience as tension and chaos and grittiness, and it's all just really getting us back to into our heart centers, like I said, and helping us remember who we are, and also find balance in it however you can. And it's a call to action. Squares are like threshold experiences. So it's really asking us to do something with the energy. What is our gut saying? You know, like Crystal was saying, like there was always that intuition there. We're talking about our solar plexus during this time when we talk about the sun. So that, you know, pit in your stomach feeling or the butterflies, like what are they nudging you towards? What's that energy representing for you? And when Uranus is involved in particular, it's really just to get us on our own path of individuation. And the last podcast I did was all about Uranus energy. So that's episode 7. So I can direct people to that too for more insight on the Uranian energy that we're going through.
So it's really neat. So when you're doing this, once again, obviously it's not Crystal because brains. But at the same time, how it's being presented to me is they're giving me like the planet, and kind of like we surround ourselves, they're putting a bubble around the planet for me. So when you're talking, what they're doing is they're giving me like different intersections that kind of look to me like math equations, like geometry almost is how they're giving this to me. And they're making me feel like it's the points that you connect with at those moments. It's like where those connections come in at that specific moment in time. And they're making me feel like that's what you're reading when you're reading these things in your astrology chart, or what you're talking about and learning how to understand those. It's like, and then that got me thinking. I was like, okay, so, and I know we shortly talked about this at one point in time for a minute, Ursula, but that's kind of like ley lines. And so do those things like directly correlate with the ground ley lines? I'm curious. Like, do they match? I'm curious if they're like a mirror image, as above, so below type of a situation, because they're almost making me feel like the intersections meet on the planet at the same time. And I'm just going to tell you that this, you guys are seeing how epiphanies work in Crystal on a daily basis, which is why I've told Ben I want cameras in my house. I know nothing. I read no books. I have no reason to know this shit at all. And it wigs me out because I couldn't read a book today, even though they gave that to me. It still wouldn't make sense if I tried to take it from a book. But that's how they presented it to me. And that makes me go a little bit, because that may actually help me be able to find the ley lines, which I do believe are a direct correlation sometimes in spiritual energy portals and what I'm going to consider like more active locations. So thank you, Ursula, for speaking and helping my guides map things out in my head and give it to me in a way that I can make sense at the same time. You like just did magic on me, and I appreciate you so much.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And I have no doubts that some ley lines correspond to planets and planet orbits. And I just, you just feel that. You can feel that when you're in the places that have like that extra spark, like you were talking about. Now, defining it, I'm not sure, but that could be really cool to just like meditate on and see what comes through.
Yeah, nah. I'll just wait till the
Or
next
for anybody.
conversation. I was like, I'll just wait. I'm lazy. I'll wait for the next conversation and be like, drop some Jupiter, guys. Give that to me now.
Nice.
I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something there, sister. And it's pretty cool how, because the ley lines are really, it's these potent portals of energy for sure. But it's also the entire electromagnetic grid that goes around the entire world. And it's a barrier between the outside and the inside. It all has direct connections and guardians and keepers and potent spots and neat things. So I'd encourage you to keep exploring.
I was going to say, this may be like a secret conversation for Ursula and I after this at some point, because I know you had stated earlier that you also were very interested in them. And I feel like this was information for a different reason. So I'll probably put that in the group thing. So you know what I'm thinking right now, but I don't want to give it out here yet because I think it's actually neat how they're presenting it. So, I will give it to you in the message. Mermaid said, my class today was talking, learn how to check. Oh, sorry, I can't read. Learn how to check your ego and put it on the shelf to be able not to question the messages trying to come through. Yes, we all could take that class. I just want you to know, Miss Mermaid, I could take that class with you. And that when ego does get triggered and try and challenge, that is so important. I try to be nice and not like say too many things because it does trigger people. Triggers are triggers in themselves. And when you tell people like, your trigger's your trigger, then that triggers them again. And so yesterday there was a post that I made on Facebook and I was like, oh, this is going to hurt people's feelings, but it's true. You can't be triggered unless you're allowing yourself to be triggered. It means somewhere inside of you, something is coming up to the surface and it's a hurt, it's a frustration, it's a feeling of unworthiness, fear, or something. And so in that moment, like all of us do it. I get triggered. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm human. But in that moment, we just need to kind of take a deep breath and realize that it's happening for a reason. And it might be wrong. Like, I know that people like my son, I love him to pieces, but this is what he does. He's like, but it's wrong. I'm like, yeah, it probably is, like moral compass here in the scheme of things, but we aren't micromanagers of other people and what they learn, how they grow, and where they're at. And so their journey is to be in a crap place. We got to let them be in a crap place, and we can just agree to disagree. It's a beautiful thing. So I love that you talked about that, Mermaid, because that's actually been coming up a lot over the past couple weeks in my household anyway. And it's just, there's a lot of stuff taking place right now. And I think that's one of those important things because it's just an extra opportunity to climb on in and say, what's going on in there? Where is that coming from? It's just that self-love that we have to give ourselves in those moments.
And it's hard. And if you get triggered, that's part of it too. We keep, triggers are opportunities to heal and grow and learn. And we're meant to, we think they're punishments because they don't feel the best. And we're like, why did this happen? And why is this happening to me? And it takes a while for us to come to that consciousness, to accept it in. But man, is there gold in those triggers. And it's pretty funny because people get triggered for you eventually too. You'll sometimes be like, it didn't even bother me. Why is it bothering you that much on my behalf? And that's when you really can see how things really affect people internally. And everybody has a friend who cares about something a little bit more than they do, even if it's happening to them. They're like, how do you put up with this or whatever? You're like, eh. And that's a really good opportunity to see how things are going on within us with people you love, because it's coming from true love, and it's a cool thing. So triggers are definitely hard thing to talk about, but there is such potency and such beauty and such magic in them once we get in there a little deeper.
Walk in a little bit. So we have an Ursula question. Jennifer says, Ursula, any tool for a Gemini to navigate this lionscape?
Like I said before, just getting the energy out. With Gemini energy, it can be very nervous. Anxiety can go with it. Fluttering around, flightiness can also think of like a butterfly or a hummingbird. So getting grounded, and then with Gemini, we're talking about communication also. So like journaling or anything that you could do to actually use your hands could be really good. So if you're just feeling like extra energy, it's important to get that out, especially in ways that are in alignment with your sun, Jen. So yeah, talking, writing, even if you need to talk into like a recorder or something just to get something out, just getting that energy out in that way that is most in alignment for you.
I'm a Gemini also, June 9th. So it makes complete sense that I'd be all sorts of vibrating today. I don't know. I was just like, yay, it's probably because I'm a Gemini. I don't know. I don't know. Actually, it's funny because like a few years ago, they said something about like the whole pole of like what you are supposed to be astrologically is shifted now. And so I'm like, okay, so by that, I'm actually a Taurus based on what the new whatever is. I'm like, and that I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty, I don't know. I am, it makes no sense. I'm a June 9th, but I do feel very closely related to Taurus, but I feel like it's mostly in between. And I feel like it's more so because I've healed it and I'm not so much Gemini because of those reasons anymore.
Everyone's got planets everywhere. So it's your whole chart. I always like to remind everyone, it's not just focused on your sun. You are your whole chart. You are all of that energy. So you might have Taurus placements, like Crystal, your Mercury could be in Taurus. That could be in, yeah, Taurus, Gemini, or Cancer, because just that's the way Mercury works in its orbit of the sun. So you could have Mercury in Taurus, and you could be experiencing a lot of what's going on right now because you have something in Taurus that's, close to the sun. It can only get so far away. So we could look at that one day.
I know we could. I told Ben, I was like, I have to get a reading by her. Yes, I do. I want to. I'm more afraid that you're going to tell me that, like, I hopped on over to the wrong damn place. And I'm going to be like, jeez almighty, because you can
There's no
see
fear
all
in
of that.
astrology.
Mermaid says, I've been feeling this hard. It's been beautiful, but this is probably one of the first years I listened to intuition instead of question and second guess it. I don't know about you guys, but I still second guess things sometimes because it seems like it's like coming in as such a place where it's almost like, we don't know at all because it isn't what we see today in our path. Therefore, why would we really take a lot of heed in it? And I think that's probably sometimes the hardest thing is just accepting it and saying, okay, Mandee has a saying for this, all that will be revealed. What is it, Mandee?
That which we need to know, that which I need to know will be revealed. Louise Hay.
Yep, she says it to herself every single morning because she knows she can't micromanage spirit. So it'll come to her, and if it's meant for her to know, she'll know, and if it's not, it'll come in due time. And I think that that's one of the things that we struggle with sometimes, and sometimes also struggle with what they're giving to us that we don't want to see. And so we're like, nope, that's not working for me today. So don't give yourself that much grief over that because, oh my gosh, I think you do such a great job of listening, and I think you do a great job of teaching. And I haven't really been taught yet or talked to you greatly, but I am going to say I think you do a much better job of receiving than what you give yourself credit for. Maybe just you've received for a lot more people than yourself because everybody needed you a little bit. So maybe this is the first time you're really just giving yourself the pause to see for yourself instead of for everybody else. And that might be why it's a little bit weird and off. I don't know. Sophia says, I mentioned earlier my trigger is a God complex. I love you. I love you so much. And that's why is because I have super low confidence in myself and my abilities. So when someone comes and smushing others down, it makes me sad, mad. Or Sophia, maybe that's like your spiritual warrior inside and you're seeing that people are being bullied or there's an injustice taking place. And so maybe part of what you were here for is to kind of help bring justice to the injustice situations through that empathy and that understanding that you have. So maybe that's something also that you can kind of your words are a lot like what I do to myself sometimes. It's like negative twist on Crystal or negative twist on this, and you're amazing and wonderful, and I hope you understand that because don't be mad at yourself for getting mad sometimes. Sometimes spirit is, I think And Mandee, Ursula, do you think sometimes spirit gives us stuff to get upset about, like does rile us up a little bit to kind of like ignite that throat chakra and that little bit of hell that you have going on inside of you, saying lift your freaking voice out, like let's go. Sometimes that's a gift being given to you. So
We call it sacred anger.
yes. So
if you're walking, this is the example I use every freaking time, but if you're walking down the street, you see someone kicking a puppy or hitting a kid, like you're going to feel something. You're going to get triggered, most of us, for a reason, because it's not okay. It's not cool. It's not something that we're doing and causing intentional harm, on this planet. Like that's a sacred anger when people are crossing your boundaries, when people are constantly pushing you. There's certain things that'll start and usually comes up as a little bit of like resentment sometimes, or sometimes it's really, like we said, the puppy kicking getting kicked on the street. But there's a sacredness to it, like Earth said, and it's important to sit with it and sift it and channel it and release it and understand what it's rising in you and why. Which is good segue into your next comment.
Oh, Glenda.
Yes, you can.
I'm trying to remember Glenda's chart in my head.
Nice. Glenda's beautiful. She also has another one.
Everybody's charts by heart for the most part, which is insane and amazing.
I was like, she asked the question, what about Cancer rising? But then she also said, Crystal, get a reading. Ursula makes you feel so comfortable. So yes, Ursula absolutely Glenda absolutely loves you. And she's making me say, yes, do this. And so, yes, Sophia, before she answers about the Cancer rising, yes, sacred anger is a thing that we're given for a reason. And there are books about it. There are things about it. There are teachings about it to help you kind of get a better grip. And a lot of us, I think that sacred anger kind of takes precedence sometimes, especially when life gets crazy, traumatic, or we're going through some things, and that kind of sits at the forefront. And it's a little bit harder to get it to sit down when we're ready to step outside and we're able to take back control for ourselves with a more open aspect. So you have had a huge shift taking place over the past 2 years. Okay. And so, yeah, there's probably things kind of fighting with each other. And lately this might be one of those things that are kind of like trying to balance and equal themselves out to essentially find their spot in your space of life today. And so just allow it and talk to it and say, okay, so thank you for showing me where this is coming from, why I'm feeling this way, and giving me the ability to use it correctly. That's kind of what I do. I talk to it. I talk to a lot of weird stuff in my head. So maybe that will help. So, Miss Ursula, what about Cancer rising right now?
So that would be the sun going through Glenda's second house of her chart. And that relates to our self-confidence and our values and our resources. So if there's anything coming up with focus on that, there's some other squares happening for Glenda in particular that we can kind of get into. I can talk to her offline about that. But there's, probably some tension coming in just because of, like I talked about in episode 7, Uranus opposition things happening. So the sun's coming in to square some of that stuff. So there's a little tension there coming from that. But what's it getting you to do, and how is it helping you become a more confident Glenda, is what I would say to that.
That's amazing. I love that. It's so funny because like we have all these strong, amazing women. Like you've seen Glenda, Mandee has seen Glenda. We've all talked to Glenda. She's this amazing powerhouse. I see her as this just like, boom. I don't think I'd mess with you, Glenda. I don't think I would. And it's not because I'm scared of you. It's just I think I know what you're capable of if I do. So at the same time, it's so funny because you're so soft. And I believe at one point you probably were very soft. And it's just so neat. Interesting. And I think I can't even, I don't feel like I can put words on it, but it's such an interesting, amazing, humble gift to, I guess, be a part of somebody's journey, to see all those different pieces and parts of people, like Sophia talked about her sacred anger, because I would never see Sophia as being that person. Mandee, you've talked to her. She's been on here so many times and she's just like, Sophia. So
Sophia, I don't think she'll mind doing this. She has mad sacred anger, and she is a keeper of the earth and the people, and she cares deeply. And sacred anger can come out in all different kinds of ways. You don't have to be an aggressive person to hold sacred anger and to start a movement. That's how we change the world. You don't think Martin Luther King had some sacred anger? You don't think, you know what I mean? There's so many opportunities to do things with the energies that we have. And anger is one of those things that doesn't have to be nasty or mean or aggressive. It could be transmuted in all kinds of ways. And I think Sophia
I love that
person to set that example.
And see, that's why I love this conversation, because it's like super humble to see all those things and see them play out and see them come to fruition in people's lives after maybe they didn't have that aspect at the forefront of their womanhood. And to see them grow into that and use that for who they are, but then also start to embrace it and love it too. Because I had such a hard time. So seeing all of you out here and you guys sitting here and knowing that that's something that's okay, it's kind of like a new calling to, I think, all of us on our path in our journey. I'm seeing all of you rise that way. So it's just amazing. It's beautiful. And I'm grateful. So thank you guys for letting me sit with you. Glenda says she's going back to you sooner. So I guess get her chart out.
Matt's here too. We're missing some comments.
No, we got Matt. When you were talking about kicking a dog, he said filthy.
Oh.
That is something I will not say out loud, but it's one of those 4-letter words.
I was like, I feel like I was down with it. I thought I knew what he meant there. Filthy son of a monkey's uncle. We'll just say that. So,
but if you have the pleasure of hearing Matt Duffy say that out loud in person, it's a privilege. It's fun.
It is. It sure is.
So, do you have anything else to add, Ursula?
Yeah, just one thing about the full moon, since it is so close, that we have a full moon in Aquarius on Thursday, and we pull again in that individuation energy. Aquarius is the rebel, Aquarius is the humanitarian, but this grittiness that we're feeling now is gonna build, and saying in a full moon is gonna be intense is pretty much like, yeah, every full moon is intense, but this one's gonna be a little bit more because of the other planets that are involved. So one thing, it's forming what's called a T-square in the sky. So we look at kind of like the one sign in the mix that's not really being aspected as like the blow-off point or like the pressure release valve. And Crystal, you talked about it earlier, like letting intense emotions rise up and actually acknowledge them and release them. So it's Scorpio in this case, and that is the Scorpio way, is to feel things intensely, but feel them most importantly, and make sure that we're emoting in a healthy way. So taking a bath could be a really nice way to kind of release the pressure under this full moon in particular, feeling your feelings, but making sure that you're getting kind of down deep to where things might still be a little hidden under the surface in yourself, and letting all of that come up. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to yell, yell. Just get the energy out. So we're going to be feeling that build and build this week more and more up to the full moon, and then probably a couple of days after the full moon. But the really cool thing is right now, some of the planets are starting to become visible right around midnight. So we have the sun opposing the planet Saturn. And when that happens, Saturn's its brightest. So right now, if we look up around midnight, you can actually see Saturn and Jupiter. And then as dawn approaches more and more, like they're all kind of revealed. Mercury is the only one visible in the evening sky right now. So midnight to sunrise, you get a planetary alignment display, which is really cool. So if you like to stargaze, if that's a way that helps you release tension, get out and do that if you can, if you're up around that time. It's really pretty. We haven't really seen the planets in the night sky for a while. So that should be pretty cool. So just like a little, tidbit about the full moon that's coming up too.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We have Glenda, and we also have Heather, who said that we're their soul family. So we appreciate you guys too. Thank you so very much. I wanted to address Inga because she is also somebody who pops in for us as a regular. She said Sacred Anger came out with me last week. It was so powerful yet rewarding. You guys are awesome. And I just wanted to address that because I know there are some things going on for you personally right now, my dear. So I'm sure you are struggling in some way. So congratulations for you to get through those hard things the way that you have with strength and honoring yourself. Love you. And then we have Matthew Duffy says, we need to find an astronomy club that offer the IP addies to the telescopes too light polluted here in AC. Yes.
That'd be dope, Matt.
Yeah.
Get to creating. We see lots of stars here. it's weird because like Modesto is like a super big town or city or whatever the heck it is. I don't know. So there's lights, there's a lot of lights, but we can see and we're in a subdivision, but we can see everything super clearly. So we can actually see the different planets and stuff like that here. And it's super cool because it's the first time I've ever been able to. In Michigan, it was always super overcast. So Ursula,
Oh, wow.
where can people find you? And also, can you please relay again what your YouTube channel is and how people can listen to you there too?
Yes, so all of my services are now on Sea Goddess Healing Arts. I have my own page on there. So seagoddesshealingarts.com/Ursa Alchemy. You can also find my podcast on there. I did create a special coupon for everyone tonight. Mandee's is Mandee Live, so mine's Ursula Live. And you can save $22 on any of my services with that. And I also still have my own website up for my blog, my historical blog, and my testimonials and all that. That's ursaalchemy.com. There's also a link to that on my Sea Goddess Healing Arts page. And our YouTube is Sea Goddess Healing Arts. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. And if you're in the South Jersey area, we have a farmer's market at the Upseekin Way House tomorrow from 4 to 7. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of produce for this one, so that'll be great. And I'm going to pass the baton to Mandee.
Just so grateful that you're all here. I love all these side conversations and everyone making friends and sharing their rising signs and sun signs. And thank you all so much for showing up and the big hearts. And yes, please give us a like, a share, a follow on seagoddesshealingarts.com. Again, Ursula Duffy is an incredible astrologist and aromatherapist. Crystal's an incredible medium. I like to hold soul space with people on their ascension path. So I do readings and connect with the angels and help you find purpose to your pain and all that good stuff. And we are all here to serve you, to help you. And just to reiterate what Ursula said, if you're in the South Jersey area, we're having a farmer's market tomorrow night from 4 to 7. And we'd love for you to come out. There's going to be free yoga, a free drum circle, amazing vendors. And it's just going to be lovely. Summertime in AC, baby. Can't complain. And Crystal, how do people get a hold of you?
As I stated before, all of our links also are in, I have the Sea Goddess Healing Arts. I didn't have Ursula's previous website, so I don't have that in the link, but I do have her linked as Sea Goddess Healing Arts, and you can find Mandee and Ursula there also. It's already in the link. You can find me at Mitten Medium if you want a reading, but I'm also doing readings for my YouTube page if you want to do those and maybe don't have the income for those, which is what I was talking about earlier, and I just wanted to reiterate that because that is at Spirit Speaks MMM@yahoo.com. I thank you guys all. I hope you have a beautiful, blessed, wonderful, amazing week. Read your numbers, take your breaths, take your baths, get some citrine, some sun stuff. Make sure you use some good essential oils, and bless whatever is not or you don't know where it came from. And we love you all. I hope you guys have a great day. And Matthew, we can set up one here. Like, seriously, I'm cool with telescopes in my backyard. I would be so shook about that. That would be great. You guys have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you all. Night.